Hi, everybody. I'm Connie Whitman, and I'm your host, and you're listening to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. Alrighty, my inspirational quote today is by Gloria Steinem, and she says, "We need to remember across generations that there is as much to learn as there is to teach." You know, we all have labels, don't we? Hopefully, all good, sometimes not. At work, we hear labels like baby boomer, Gen X, millennials, and now finally the newest generation, the Gen Zs. In 2016, fun fact for you, millennials became the largest generation in the labor force. So step aside, baby boomers. You know, the reality is that leaders in the organization, though, are still the baby boomers. So this generation, these millennials that are coming up, constantly hearing things like from baby boomers like myself, you know, those millennials. You know, what does that even freaking mean? And the funny thing is, millennials know that when a baby boomer says it in that tone, that it's not being said as a compliment. You know, today we have, I think it's four multi-generations working side by side right now. And here's the reality. We need to get along. We need to understand how each of us ticks, how we think, and figure out, instead of seeing differences, we need to figure out the common ground so that we can share ideas, collaborate together, and actually become more innovative. So you may be wondering, all right, how the heck do we do this? And how do we close that generation gap? Well, today you're in store for a very big treat. My guest is Ann Hayes, who brings, I think, a real fresh perspective on how to connect the millennials and, again, in our generational pool of talent. And Ann is a millennial mastermind coach. I love it. An inspirational speaker, author, writer, agent of social change, which we absolutely need, and a reconnector to one's divine, limitless power and absolutely to each other. So please help me welcome my very high energy and absolutely delightful guest, Ann, to the show. So Ann, thank you for being on and for just taking the time to come on the show and share your energy and expertise and just fresh ideas on everything.
I'm going to tell you, Connie, I am delighted to be here because I love your energy. Forgive me, but New Jersey girl, so I'm feeling the vibe. And I just love that amazing intro. And it's absolutely, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. It's powerful. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and you know, I've obviously I work in the corporate realm, right? The corporate environment, and I'm stunned at the amount of times I hear, well, you know, those millennials, even in my training, oh, I have so many millennials. And it's just never said with a positive vibe. And it goes back to, and I know we're going to discuss this, but it goes back to that we all come to the table, whatever that is, whatever business we're in, with biases, and multi-generation is just one of many. And that's what I really want to focus on today. And I don't think we talk about the generational differences that are existing, especially with four side by side, first time in our history. So my first question for you, again, your vibe is awesome. I totally see where the millennial, I'm going to say kids, right? Because I'm a boomer, but how they totally connect with you, and I could see how you would get through to them. So my first question is, you call yourself the Millennial Mastermind Coach, which I absolutely adore. Why millennials? First, did you choose millennials? And what do you think makes you qualified to mastermind or coach the millennial population?
Oh, good one. Okay, well, first of all, you know, I'm like you. I'm tapped in. I trust, tapped into that divine source field, the divine matrix, and it just kind of evolved organically. I mean, first of all, we all know that this took decades to build, but it's only been the last 8 years where I've really made it a strong intention and set goals to have a business and be an entrepreneur. And this is the last evolution and the latest unfolding and transformation. And for me, it's very powerful because I'm actually, by the nature of what I do, I come into contact with a lot of millennials. We're talking about millennials, excuse me, Generation X, Y, Z. Now, I was born the latter part of 1964. So technically, I'm on the cusp between baby boomer and that elder millennial. And I take pride in that, you know, because I feel like I'm here to help bridge the gap. We all are, because we bring in our experience. You know, for me, millennials, you know, and I was caught up in that mindset too, in that paradigm where people said, oh, it's the lost generation, especially Generation Z. And, you know, they're always on digital platforms. And 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 I had to step back and say, wait a minute, let's focus on their strengths, because there are beautiful people in my life who are enhancing me and sharing beautiful perspectives that I'm embracing.
Absolutely.
And that's powerful. So I don't believe it's ever a one-way street. It's always a two-way exchange. I don't care if it's an 8-month-old baby, they're giving me something. And so first I recognize that. And I see millennials as visionaries. They're natural born. It's programmed into their DNA. They have the recipe to help bridge the gap between these outdated paradigms and this new conscious wave of belief and unlimitless possibility, which is, I know where you're coming from. So it's amazing that you have the corporate and you can balance that with your decoding the wisdom and activating the DNA and tapping in. I think it's a beautiful balance. So you're bridging the gap in your own way, which is very powerful. And I love what you're doing. And I love all the amazing guests that you're bringing onto your show. You are doing your thing, and it's reverberating powerfully, I believe. But anyways, not to digress too much, they're visionaries. They care. They've been programmed. They come in a wave of energy where, there's more love and peace. It's more prevalent. It's more pervasive, and a movement towards universal harmony. And they want to be a part of that change. They're interested in making dramatic and powerful impact on the world. They want to leave behind a legacy. And so, taking those and embracing those favorable attributes. But in the same manner, so how do I qualify? Well, first of all, I believe that I can help bridge the gap. I'm coming from not just the Western philosophy where you intellectualize and you have the information and you think about, well, this is what transcendence is. I come from a balance of both, the Eastern philosophy where I have the experiential transcendence, years of experiences that have shaped who I am today. So it's not like I just went on the internet. It's funny. I had a millennial saying yesterday, yeah, I learned everything online. I connect with everyone online. I'm like, that's beautiful. But I've had both. You know what I mean? I've been in the trenches. I've been in it, I've done it, and I've seen it. And so I'd be able to bring that to the table. The other thing is that, and we all have a little bit of ego, even the spiritual ego. I believe that millennials in particular, they know how amazing they are. It's in their DNA. They know how powerful they are. They're visionaries. They're creative. Their potential is, they have a more direct line to a more deeply spiritual connection to the divine. And so they know that on some level. And so they're going to have, of course, a little bit of that ego says, okay, we're the ones to come in and make this change. These baby boomers move on. They're too traditional. They have nothing to teach me, and so they have to learn to listen. So I feel like I have the ability to help not just me in the process, but to help millennials relinquish a bit of that spiritual ego and to understand that it's wonderful to promote yourself, but we also need to promote others because it's a greater win for all of us. And that's really essentially what we all want. That's what they want, but they have to kind of just move beyond that. I also feel like in some sense, because they've been born into this world, even with this programming in the DNA, the external environment appears to be scary, chaotic. And so some are lost, not all, but some of them are a little bit lost. They're lacking clarity. And I feel like I can jump in and give them that clarity. I feel like I have a PhD in the law of attraction. I can present it, the science behind it. I can make it meaningful and useful. I feel like I'm like aged wine, so come check me out.
I love it. What's funny? I think that this generation, the millennial generation, and my kids are on the cusp of the millennials and the Gen Z, which I think they're calling them the I generation because of the iPhone and all of that. But they are definitely more connected. When you say to, again, that age group of millennial, do you believe in the universe or the law of attraction, or you say, little phrases like that, they get it. They're reading about it. They're connected, which is interesting because I know my generation, the baby boomer generation, we thought it was all woo-woo and, what a bunch of malarkey that it was out there. And, you work hard and you make your destiny, like all of these different things that we were raised with. So I think that this next generation, and again, my kids' generation, the Gen Zs, again, they're on the cusp, but they're more open than I think my generation ever was. And I 100% agree with you. They have creativity. I think because of the technology that they're not their framework isn't as tight as the baby boomers, because the technology is like, yeah, you could do that. Yeah, there's an app for that. So this boundless kind of anything is possible. So I agree with you that they were raised with that kind of realm of information, that it's like a no-brainer. And that's where I think their creativity comes from. And I just want to comment on one last thing. I love that kids, and again, I'll use kids, right? The millennials, they'll come to me and say, hey, can you mentor me? Can you coach me? Can you work with me? Whatever it is, because they want to build their professional career, which I love, that they can see the value of my experience. And I say I'm seasoned, but I'm hot and spicy. So yeah, you know it, right? But they come to me and say, hey, can you help or whatever? And the funny thing is, I'll say to them, okay, you have to reverse mentor me. So if you see an app that you think is going to help my business, or you read an article that you think I should be aware of for my business or for my own personal development, you need to share it with me as well. And we'll create this little partnership. And the funny thing is, they love it, because they think, wait a minute, this one gets it. It's not like she's the teacher and I'm the student, but aren't we always learning? Isn't that what we should be doing? I'm always a student. So I'm not afraid to ask millennials or even my kids, like, how do you do that? What's that? Explain that to me. And I think that's what that closes this gap, so that we are relevant to each other. And I think that's important. And it's funny, because the way you speak and your energy and your vibe, I could see where millennials, people in their 20s and 30s totally resonate with you, because you keep it real and you're not dictating or preaching, which I think is dangerous. That's how we lose these kids, Now, I just want to build on the last question. What unique skills or knowledge do you think helps you connect with them? Is it an experience? Is it studies that you've done? Like, how do you do that connection? I'm curious.
Oh, that's a big one. Well, first of all, it's all of my experiences. I was a teacher in my past life, so I have taught every age you can mention. I have worked in the inner city, outside of the city. I've worked with DYS, DSS. I've worked with incarcerated youth, those in detention. Wow. I've done through grants that I've helped to write. And otherwise, I have done yoga in and around the city with predominantly middle school populations. I've done, day camps, you name it. I've run a day camp. I've been in the inner city, and I've been a youth worker, a community outreach worker. And I've had all those very painful, challenging experiences. If I could just mention a little bit of the backstory, I went through repeated childhood sexual trauma, and I'm going to add torture to that, even though it may sound redundant, because they use the word abuse, and this is, what I went through and what I can remember when the flashbacks come through, it was torture, and so I had all those symptoms of, depression came later, but it was the anxiety, the OCD, the hyperactivity. You can see, which I use that to my advantage now. But and a lot of pain, self-hatred. I had phobias. I had night terrors. You couldn't necessarily see it. I was trying to contain it for a long, long time, a lot of distraction. And I got into the practice of disassociating myself from the present moment as a way to survive. Like, I didn't know if I was going to survive from week to week. So secrecy became a part of my experience. The fact that I'm using my voice now, and as an MC, and as a poet, and as a speaker, and as somebody who's sharing my experience and my integrity, is extremely powerful. Because, let's just say, when they talk about selectively mute, bull corn, okay? I don't believe in any such thing. I worked with a young girl who was, quote unquote, labeled as selectively mute. That is such deep, intense pain. You want to speak up, but on a subconscious level, it could mean your life. And so I wasn't in general, but like in close relationships, I would become selectively mute. And it was like I just couldn't talk. So for me to talk now and to share the kind of things I do is valuable. So those experience my experience as a teacher, setting goals, setting intentions, my experience as an entrepreneur, and how it has unfolded my personal growth and my personal transformation, I think is very powerful to share with others. Where I was and where I am today, it affected me physically. 8 years ago, I could not stand up straight. It took me 20 minutes to get out of bed. My hands would curl up washing my baby girl's hair. So it was like, I had a very deep depression too, and so I have that to share in those experiences. And I have developed a lot of tools and strategies that I know will help, because you can't just say, be positive. That used to get me. That used to get me. You can't just say it. You need specific tools and strategies to help, that others can utilize. And I've mentored a lot of people already.
What's first of all, oh my God, my heart breaks to hear what you went through, and kudos that you've come out the other side and are using those bad experiences to create something that is really valuable to people who are suffering and don't have a voice and don't know how to share it or break out of it or feel secure, right? To feel safe. So kudos to you. I think this is so important for this generation, because they're so attuned to Facebook. Well, they're not on Facebook anymore, but the Instagram, texting. They don't have conversations anymore. Even if they go out to dinner and they're sitting at a table, you'll see that generation, the kids younger. When I say that, the kids younger than us, right? They're texting each other at the same table. So to find your voice in an environment that's a digital platform becomes even more exponentially hard, I think, for them. But also, where do you go for that information? Because they're trying to hide it, like you did, from people in your life, your parents and what have you. And I can only imagine the level of loneliness they feel, because we're so because we've become such a digitized society. And the other thing too is, I think they start to think these negative emotions, or this abuse, or horror that they're facing is normal, because everything we see in the media now is horrible. You can't put on the evening news without, who's raped, who's been robbed, who's been killed, where's there a fire from an arson, putting fires in there. The whole thing. So they think, well, this must be normal. This must be normal life, what I'm going through, and not even see that there's a difference. So that you are able, again, because you're on the cusp of the two generations, I think you have the value of being brought up without the digital and being exposed to the digital and seeing that secrecy isn't bad and that exposure is an important thing. Just really, really an important message. And I really hope that these kids, the millennials and even the Gen Zs, my kids, I hope that they resonate with you, because there are answers and there are resources that they might just not know about. Let's talk about, you said you've done inspirational speaking. It seems that a lot of inspirational speakers are motivated by the past struggles and all of that. So does your backstory, what you just shared with us, do you feel that helps with that inspiration of connecting?
Oh, most definitely. And the thing is, I wasn't sharing my backstory until recently, because I knew that I didn't want to focus that, because I didn't want to appear as a victim, because my mindset
Absolutely.
now is I'm not a victim unless I choose. I create my reality. That is a blessing. I look back, that's a huge blessing, because I wouldn't have been propelled on my path the way I was. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be able to embrace my divine unlimited potential. I wouldn't be able to freestyle and rap the way. I have incredible confidence, and I do. As a 54-year-old white female MC, I will get in it with you. You can ask me to do it or not. You will miss out if you don't, though. And that I want to show people that anything is possible. It's never too late. I'm here to break down barriers and to show that that's where we're at. We're in that wave of energy. And yeah, it's my authenticity.
It is. Okay, so give me 4 or 5 words that you would use or that people have used to describe you.
Oh, okay. So passionate. Obviously passionate.
Absolutely.
Positive, energetic, authentic, and just loving.
Yeah, you really are. You're a delightful person to talk to and speak with, and you have a great sense of humor, and you do have an amazing energy. And a word I would use for you is real. I think you're, like, this is it. This is me. Don't like me? That's cool. You like me? Cool. If I can help you, cool. If you're not ready to listen to me, cool. So I just think you keep it really real, which is a good thing. It is a good thing. I want to shift. You're an entrepreneur. Love the name of your business. It's called Urban Reset. Why that name?
Urban Reset, again, that kind of evolved, and because my target population is like older teens, young adults, especially those with what I call not even urban, but ghetto state of mind, prison state of mind, because we don't have to be enclosed in four walls to be locked down and locked out of our divine nature. And so urban, because it's within those urban areas where you find, I believe, the greatest need to kind of switch things up, because the external environment is not set up in a way for especially youth of color to kind of embrace their infinite potential and recognize that greatness is already written all over them. It's harder to do because of the external environment. And so to me, it's really important to kind of help them reset their mindset so they take off on a different, more positive path.
When you were working with the troubled youths, and you said you worked in the, was it kids in the...
Teenagers.
Say it again?
Teenagers,
but they were incarcerated, correct? That you worked with incarcerated teenagers?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what kind of was the spark for you to start this business? I'm just curious.
Actually, the spark, honestly, there's been so many different pieces. I did have my defining moment when I just hit rock bottom, but that's too long a story. But when I was working with incarcerated youth, there was this one particular 14-year-old Black youth from Dorchester in Boston who used to deal drugs. His dad was in prison for murder. He grew up in a really tough section of Dorchester known as H Block. And wonderful human being, very handsome, very athletic, very intelligent, great sense of humor, very creative, a lot of potential. He, got out of the halfway, the detention, the incarceration after 18 months, did his time, did his thing, grew, developed, went back. It was his mother. He might have had another sibling or two, but they had moved out to the suburbs of Boston, predominantly white section. So you're just not fitting in. Okay, you just don't fit in this community. It was hard for him. They were struggling. As the man of the house now, he wants to support his mom. He wants to take care of his family. He goes back to that same corner selling drugs. You can't do that. It's an unwritten law. Basically he was shot to death. And I had already moved on to another job, but I didn't realize until 2 years after he had passed. And it really hit me because he was one of those special youths. And this is going to sound crazy, but he's come to me at least twice, that telepathic communication. And we actually wrote a couple of songs together, which at some point will be out in the mainstream. And we both were able to cry and really heal in a huge way. And he's there in my spiritual background, so to speak, always there, always giving me signs that, no, you need to do this. You were meant to do this. You were meant to bridge the gap. You were meant to come in as a white female, to use your white privilege to help uplift all of us. We need to get rid of the body bags on the streets. I should still be alive. We need you in there. You can do this.
Yeah, and interesting, not only a white female, but a 54-year-old female who can relate. It's like your soul is one of a child. And I say that with love and as a compliment, because we all need that childlike energy. We all need that childlike vision that anything is truly possible. What is your vision, both for you, for yourself personally, but also for your business? I'm curious.
Oh man, I got a vision like we all do, First of all, I want to be a renowned international speaker because I want to be able to empower others to find their own unlimited potential and their own creativity and their own vision. I also want to, obviously online course, I already have those set up, when the time is right to let those unfold and get those going. Cool. I have a book that I have published, but I have at least 3 more lined up and another one that's full of inspirational quotes that I have come up with. I have a t-shirt that I have designed. I have, I used to do political cartoons. I could do that. But, I don't want to be the jack of all trades. My focus right now is the masterminding and the speaking, but I also want to create a foundation where I go into communities, especially urban communities, and I train leaders within the communities, and then they turn around and train members within the community. So we plant a seed, a powerful seed, and it kind of just grows and flowers and blossoms within that community. So we strengthen those communities. So we don't just dip in and dip out. We empower, we train. Like what you do training. So they can turn around and empower their own, and then just have that spread like this beautiful garden across the country and across the planet. So I have a vision for that. I have a vision, for me personally, it's just to continue to create a more joyfully and financially abundant life, so that I can have a greater and greater impact, to be fulfilled through what I'm able to give to both my kids and to the community and the world at large, and just leaving behind that legacy where I see people tapping into their own power and having that exponentially reverberate with its impact is what I want to help do. I want to create multiple affiliates. I want to create a number of collaborative opportunities, not just affiliates, but where we collaborate on albums, we collaborate on trading, speaking. So it's not just, for example, J. Cole, it's me independent. I write the beats, I sing, I write the lyrics. It's me, great spiritual conscious guy, rapper. But let's have a little more collaboration. And they're starting to do that more and more.
They are.
Just rappers, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to unfold more. And they're not doing drugs. These ones, they're not doing drugs. And they're not drinking. And they're starting to speak about not doing that. So I digressed a little bit, but that's where I'm at.
It's interesting that you say that, because I do see more collaboration. I have a 19-year-old son, and he loves that whole venue, right? The rappers and all of that. So when we're in the car together, I allow him. He says, Mom, I'm going to put my music in. I'm going to be the DJ. I'm like, okay, of course. And I like it. Again, it's that reverse mentoring, whether he realizes it or not. I like staying current with music, because I also think music it transcends every generation, right? There's power in music and in the vibration and sound. So he puts his music in it. I just listen. So there's a couple of artists that I really, really enjoy that he has shown me. First one is a young man named Khalib, and I'm not sure where he's from. I don't know where he's from, but when this kid sings, and he sings and raps combination, the first time I listened, I said to my son, "Who is this kid?" I think he's 18 or 19 years old now, but what a soulful, mature voice with this. Yeah. It just resonated. And I don't remember the artist's name. They did that 1-800 for the suicide hotline. Logic, right. So Logic, Khalib was on that, and there was one other artist. So the collaboration. And I saw an interview about that song, and because again, I had listened to the song with my son. So again, awareness, right? It raises our awareness. And there was an interview that once they posted and that song, became mainstream, that more and more kids were calling the hotline, because relating to his story through the song, through the rap song, and then him saying, I got help and there's resources. Oh, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So the power of music, the power of collaboration with other like-minded people. And again, having that Khalib, that soulful voice, with Logic having that more rap mainstream, his story, it just, what a brilliant song. And these kids, and they're not, I don't believe Khalib, I'm not sure about the kid Logic, but he comes from the suburbs, and he's a good kid, went to school, had the girlfriend, very, very normal, what I'll call a normal life, yet relating to kids from the inner city, but kids like my son from the suburbs. So, and me, a 56-year-old woman. So think about that, how cool it is. So music, I love that you're, and that the young man comes to you with that information, I think is important. And I do agree, we need to stop the madness. We need to stop all of the negative news and bring in some light and some better alternatives. Because I think our kids, I don't know, I recently, my son's roommate was living with us. They had an internship together. And he's like, I don't want kids. And I was stunned, because he's, 21. And he goes, I don't want to bring kids into this world. And I was like, wow. So that was kind of, as soon as he left, I said to my kids, you want kids, right? Because I want grandkids, It's just very interesting.
You know what it is? And that's what I'm trying to refocus that population. And I get that. It's, I work with young Black youth who want to go to college and then go to Canada. So it's to me, it's sad because it's just refocusing and allowing them to attract. We're in the throes of a rebirth. This is beautiful.
Absolutely. Agree 100%.
Beautiful thing. It's about perspective and how we look at it and where we put our focus. Absolutely. And that's what I want to help to do.
Yeah. And can I tell you, you have the energy, the voice, and the power that it's like people are just going to follow you because I'll go back to my word before. I think you're real. I think your authenticity is genuine. And I was giggling before when you said, I want to create a good future for my children, be financially independent, right? Which we all want to be financially independent. But in the same breath, you said, be financially independent so I have more to give and to share and to build these foundations and truly leave a legacy. So the money isn't for self, the self-ego. It's really for the future and for future generations that you really want to leave something valuable behind. And I commend you. I really do commend you for that. My last question, we're out of time. I would imagine that you possess a ton of wisdom, again, because of your experiences. Again, your age, 54, hot and spicy like me, right? We have all...
Hi, baby.
You got it. Can you give advice to anybody listening? Young, old, doesn't matter, because we all go through crap in our life, right? And sometimes don't know what to do, don't know what the alternatives are. Just can you share something? And I know you like to rap, so you want to do a little freestyle for me? Are you cool, or is that pressure?
No, I'm totally cool. What had come to me was, and we'll see how this flows, is about change, and change in many ways, like changing so change the geographic. Don't be what I call the geo addict, even change the demographic. You got to switch it up, flip it up. Make a change, switch the lanes, like Range Rover, game over, pick a new four-leaf clover in a different environment. That's what I meant to say. You can't just stay behind. How are you going to realign, tap into your divine if you're not changing moment to moment to moment? You need to own it. Go to a new place. See a new face. Find some new grace. Listen to somebody different with a different rhythm, different system. That's when I want to give them a little bit more of my wisdom. Just switch it up.
That was awesome. That was amazing. I can't wait for my kids to hear this, because my especially my little guy, every once in a while I'll hear him on Xbox with his friends, and he'll do like a freestyle like that with whatever they're talking about. And I just giggle because I'll think to myself, wow, that was pretty good. Like, how did his mind work that fast to connect not only the rhythm, the rhyme, but the content to make sense? So that was awesome. I just love it. I can't wait for my son to hear that. So thank you for that. That was fun. That was really fun and different.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, different for the show. So very cool. So guys, if you'd like a little bit more Ann Hayes, I highly recommend 2 ways to reach her. One, go to her website. It's, of course, www.urban-reset.com. And if you'd like to email her, go to urbanreset999@gmail.com, right? I got that right?
You got it, mama.
All right, kiddo. All right, if you guys need more Connie, which I hope you always do, please reach out to me directly on my email at connie@whitmanassociates.com. You know what? Send me inspiration. Send me questions. Send me information that you think is relevant and maybe you'd like me to host a show on. I'd be happy to do that. So reach out to me. I do check my emails directly. Again, if you want more Ann Hayes, go to urban-reset.com or directly connect with her, urbanreset999@gmail.com. And thank you so much again. Just an awesome show. Thanks for that freestyle. Thanks for the energy, and thanks for just keeping it fun for us, because it is a heavy topic when we talk about biases and stuff. And you were a light. You were a shining bright light. So I thank you so much for that.
Yeah, we created that together, my friend.
You know it, sister, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you guys for joining me weekly, as I hope we question, build, and discover together just how to grow ourselves and challenge and embrace change, like Ann was saying, and realize that change is easier than I think we often think. We make it harder for ourselves. So just embrace the change, guys, and don't be afraid of it. Thank you for joining me. You've been listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.net. I really challenge you to go out and have or experience a life filled with inspiration and maybe become the inspiration that people are looking for. Thanks for joining us. Have a great one.